Good evening. I'm Salvador Flor de Liza, and our research is entitled Utilization of Google Classroom and its Affect the Academic Performance of First-Year Education Student of Colegio de Montalban. Now we proceed to Chapter 1. Introduction. As a digital tool, Google Classroom is accessible only to users with Google Apps for education. This is a free collaborative set of tools. These tools include web tools like Google Docs, Google Drive, Gmail, and more. According to Hosseini et al. 2020, in today's pandemic, we're not having face-to-face classes like here at Colegio de Montalban. That's the reason why we use online class to avoid physical contact and to maintain the safety of the teachers and students. Hosseini et al. Stated that the current situation of COVID-19 pandemic is restricted movement and social distancing. That's why they recommend applying Google Classroom to assess both teachers and students to work together. Teachers will create assignments, grade of the students, and post lectures, while the students can also ask questions about the areas they don't understand. So the main purpose of this research is to conduct a study about the utilization of Google Classroom. The study will benefit both teachers and students to main user of Google Classroom. That's why the future researcher can use our study as a basis for their future study regarding Google Classroom. According to CHED Memorandum, Order Number 4 Series of 2020, considering that the flexible learning teaching and learning design perspective is deeply rooted in the needs of the students. So the main objective should be to provide learners with the most flexible learning content, like schedules, assess, and innovative assessment, making use of digital and non-digital tools. The online class use various online learning tools to be used in learning, and one of them is Google Classroom. Google Classroom is the free online learning platform to design support teachers and students to submit their activities through online, while teachers can use Google Classroom to distribute their assignments and activities and different schoolworks for the students. Now we proceed the background of the study. Google Classroom was created on August 12, 2014. It is a free online learning tool that is designed to help teacher and student to their works. Teacher organize, post, and create activities to those students, while the students submit activity to their through Google Classroom. According to Martinez et al. 2017, the teachers is they create their assignment um, to distribute them and attach different types of documents to monitor the students' submissions and to provide feedback of the students once their assignment turned in. In particular, in research aims to determine the utility of Google Classroom and its affect the academic performance of first-year education student of Colegio de Montalban. The researchers will argue that the utility of Google Classroom is to determine that the students' performance, and the researchers are the best position to offer alternatives to the problem by knowing and understand the difficulties that they encounter. Now we proceed the review related literature.
Review of related literature and studies. Good evening again. I am Shireen Felionis that will be discussed about the review of related literatures and studies. For the first one, foreign literature, we have here Hegart et al. In year 2018. Many tertiary institutions have embraced digital learning through the use of online learning platforms and social networks. In this study, two early career academics and instructors examined the effectiveness of using Google Classroom for final year primary teacher education students to encourage students' voice and agency, and to consider how the platform might influence future pedagogies at the tertiary level. For Rachma et al. In year 2019, in Indonesian Journal of Social Research, Volume 2, Number 2 of 2020, as the result of Nirfayanti and Nirbaeti research that there is a significant influence of Google Classroom learning media on student motivation. For McGinnis in year 2020, in her article, she stated that to make learning with digital content more dynamic for students, consider mixing up the types of resources you share with them in Google Classroom. Here are the foreign studies. For Liu et al. In year 2016, conducted an action research in Taiwan in which they used Google Classroom with the integration of peer tutor mechanism for sixth grade students. For Lochman et al. In year 2020, in their study, they stated that Google Classroom, or GC, is a service in the G Suite education product which can be accessed via the web or downloaded via the mobile app. GC or Google Classroom is part of G Suite. Google Classroom will be tied to the support of other Google applications such as Google Drive, Calendar, Board Clock, Forms, Hangouts, Meet, Documents, Sheets, Slides, and also Gmail. Next slide. For Okmawati in year 2020, mentioned in his study that after implementing this application through Learning Home, suggested by government, due to the pandemic, the students more enthusiastic in doing the learning process. It can be said that it is effective to use the Google Classroom to fulfill the curriculum. For Inouye et al. In year 2018, the time and energy spent by Google Classroom users will be lesser than usual. Next slide. For Shaharani et al. In year 2016, the effectiveness of Google Classroom's active learning activities for data mining subject under the Decision Science program. For Al-Bashtawi et al. In year 2020, stated here that Google Classroom is an innovative and effective online platform for improving EFL students' reading and writing performances. Here are the local literatures. For MOBO in year 2020, mentioned that the opening of classes in the tertiary level has just started and the new system has put into places like using the flexible learning set by the Commission on Higher Education. Most of the higher education right now are using Google Education in their teaching and learning activities like utilizing Google Classroom, Google Meet, and Google Calendar and Google Forms in replacement to the traditional face-to-face teaching. For Tuquero in year 2020, revealed that in the Philippines, due to the 4,195 confirmed cases, as of April 10, 2020, based on the Department of Health or DOH online tracker report, the COVID-19 pandemic really causes a massive impact in higher education institutions. The country immediately opted for online learning. For ASPER, in year 2019, the academic institutions are encouraged to make Google Classroom as avenue to promote e-learning among students. Next slide. For local studies, we have here Bentayen in year 2018 in their study conducted in Pangasinan State University, Philippines, stated that Google Classroom can be easily deployed in the URL classroom.google.com, educators can set up classroom in minutes and create contents for students. For Barrera et al. In year 2020, researchers from St. Michael College of Caraga, Philippines, in their study shows that Google Classroom with 50.43% ranks first among the respondents' applications, followed by Edmodo, and the list is large. For TRIA in year 2020, the Commission on Higher Education suggested to strengthen online platforms and blended learning, such as, but not limited to Google Classroom, Messenger, Zoom, Edmodo, Facebook, and YouTube. For Aaron, in year 2020, in her study, research rather, in Mindanao State University, Iligan, Philippines, stated that Google Classroom apps allows participants to communicate with one another, view and edit presentations or documents, view videos, interact with other participants by exchanging comments, and engage with resources in work groups. Okay. For Alda et al. In year 2020, from Cebu Normal University, Philippines, the Google Classroom, Moodle, Schoology, Neo LMS, etc. are few of the countless online learning platforms that the teachers may use for an easier and faster way of tracking students' records and in presenting course materials and documents. Teachers can use this tool for online blended or flipped classrooms. For Abisado et al. In year 2020, researchers from Pamantasan ng Cabuyao, Philippines stated that the standard classroom and paper textbooks and paper handouts are no longer the only way to teach and educate students. Okay. As you can see, these are the RRL that is being presented by the studies and the literature of different researchers and authors from foreign, local, and local country. These are regarding about the Google Classroom. Now, we will proceed to the synthesis of the review. While reading the review of related literature that is used in this research, there are some articles and study that has a similarity like Google Classroom as interaction and communication for teachers and students, as an online learning platform, and e-learning as an application site, and usage of Google Classroom in pandemic and online class implementation. So our study provides basis on how it is different from others. The originality is there and it is well made by researchers. This study will provide the effect of Google Classroom on the academic performance of first-year students of Colegio de Montalban. The evidences that will provide in this study will serve as provement of honesty and originality that is needed. Next. Okay. For our theoretical framework, the theory of connectivism by George Siemens and Stephen Downes is being used, which is related to our study. The theory of connectivism is a learning theory that describes how the internet technologies have created new opportunities for people to learn and share information across the World Wide Web and among themselves. Next slide. One of the main functions of Google Classroom is to share information through internet technologies, and main focus of this theory is about connection of people using internet technologies. In that sense, they are interrelated with each other. This matter creates new opportunities for people to learn with each other, despite the fact that they are not personally communicating, but with the use of internet technologies.
So this is the conceptual framework that we made. For the input, the demographic profile of the student in terms of age, sex, course, civil status, gadget, general average, or general weighted average. For the process, demographic profiling of the students in Colegio de Montalban. Number 1, formulating questions. Number 2, development and validation of questionnaires. Number 3, administration of questionnaire. Number 4, retrieval of questionnaire and tabulation of data. For the output, the effectivity of Google Classroom that will positively impact the academic performance of first year's education students of Colegio de Montalban. So this is the statement of the problem. The researchers found out the effectiveness of Google Classroom to the academic performance of first year students of Colegio de Montalban. Specifically, the, stud- the study need to be answer the following questions. Number 1, what is the demographic profile of the respondents in terms of age, sex, course, civil status, gadget, and what is the general weighted average academic year 2020-2021 first year Institute of Education second semester online class. Number 2, what are the effects of the utilization of Google Classroom in the academic performance of the respondents? Number 3, is there a significant relationship between the demographic profile of their academic performance using Google Classroom? Number 4, is there a significant relationship between the utilization of Google Classroom in the academic performance of the respondents? So this is the hypothesis that we made. The following null hypothesis was tested in the study. Number 1, there is no significant relationship between the demographic profile of the respondents and their academic performance using Google Classroom. Number 2, there is no significant relationship between the utilization of Google Classroom in the academic performance of the respondents.
For the scope and limitation, the study is limited only to the selected first-year education students of Colegio de Montalban. The collecting of data is focused only on the demographic graphic profile of the respondents in age, sex, course, civil status, gadget, and general weighted average. The purpose of this study is to know if the Google Classroom has effect on the academic performance of a student. Nowadays, we in the time of pandemic that is caused by COVID-19, and since face-to-face classes is not allowed, the teachers and students use online class to interact and lecture. The use of Google Classroom in times of pandemic is efficient because you don't have to go to school to give the teacher the activities you did can go through Google Classroom and protect you and not be infected with COVID-19. So, for significance of the study, general, this study will be given benefit to the following sectors in the school and community system. For students, this study will serve as a basis for them to improve their academic performance in using Google Classroom. To parents and guardian, they should be aware that there is a learning progress in online learning. For instructors, the instructors can use this study to help students who are struggling in terms of utilization of Google Classroom. For Colegio de Montalban, to the students of Colegio de Montalban, this study will serve as reference in connection with utilizing Google Classroom studies that they will conduct in the future research work. And the last one is for future researchers. To the future researcher, this study will help to them to come up with possible comparison that can be led to a more valid generalization and enrichment of their own study. So, and for the definition of terms, first is academic performance. It is the extent to which a student has sustained their short or long-term educational goals that the researchers want to determine its effect by using Google Classroom. Blended learning, it's a form of education in which students learn through electronic and online media in contrast to standard face-to-face learning. College, an educational institution providing higher education or specialized professional or vocational training that the researcher is going to conduct a research course. An academic route which first-year students are taking in Colegio de Montalban. COVID-19, a global pandemic that happens from March 11, 2020 up until now. Curriculum, the subjects comprising a course of study in a school or college. Google Classroom, an online tool which can be used by teachers and students to communicate, view, or edit presentation, upload documents, images, or videos, and can also share links to the other websites.
Now we proceed to Chapter 2, Methodology. So this chapter represents the research design, respondents of the study, data gathering procedure, research instrument, and the statistical treatment that will be used in the study. In research design, the researchers use quantitative research with the survey questionnaire through Google Form as the principal instrument for data gathering. Quantitative research is defined as the process of collecting and analyzing numerical data. Quantitative research relies on the data that are measured to examine questions about the respondents of the students.
Here is our research locale. The research was conducted in Colegio de Montalban, which was located at Siglahan Village, San Jose Rodriguez, Rizal. The Pamantasan ng Montalban was established in September 25, 2003 by Municipal Ordinance Numbers 03 to 4 and followed by 04 to 03 approved on July 5, 2004, which is authored by the former three-termer councilor Gemelita Baldago Dulya, wherein the members of the Sangguniang Bayan approved under the administration of former fourth-term Municipal Mayor Pedro S. Cuerpo. A team led by Councilor Dulya worked for approval of the documents that needed for its initial courses such as Diploma in Computer Technology, Diploma in Garments Technology, Diploma in Nursing Aid, BS in Business Administration, BS in Education with concentration in Early Childhood Education, BS Civil Engineering, BS Computer Engineering as year passed by. The school added other courses such as Bachelor in Elementary Education, BS in Secondary Education, BS in Information Technology, BS in Human Resources Management, and BS in Entrepreneurship Management. The Pamantasan ng Montalban was built by the hard work and efforts of our Councilor Dulya, former Mayor Pedro S. Cuerpo, Parents Teacher Association, Pamantasan ng Montalban Faculty and the Staff Association to Pasig River Rehabilitation Commission, Governor Casimiro Inares, and Congressman Adeline Rodriguez Saldarriaga with the Phil Chinese Chamber of Commerce Incorporation. In April 2011, licensure examination for teachers, the Pamantasan ng Montalban was the top one during the examination with its 2010 Magna Cum Laude, Bachelor in Elementary Education, Major in Early Childhood Education, and now pay later beneficiary Miss Erica Formales Montefalcon. The PNM or Pamantasan ng Montalban operates since July 2004 under the administration of former Mayor Pedro S. Cuerpo and was continued by the successor elected Mayor Cecilio C. Hernandez since July 2010. And in June 2013, the Pamantasan ng Montalban was named Colegio de Montalban.
For the respondents of the study, for the respondents of the study, the researchers will select the first year education students of academic year 2020-2021 as the main subject of the study. The researchers will use the convenience sampling method since this will be held online and this will be an easy way to contact or reach them. Next slide. For data gathering procedures, for our data gathering procedure, the researchers will ask for availability of main subjects to answer the survey questions that has a two-part, their demographic profile and the questions about the study. The confidentiality is assured, so they are having the option to be anonymous. Next slide. Participants were given time to respond on Google form and then the researcher will collect it afterward. The data collected will be used for the whole construction of study.
Next is the research instrumentation. The gathered data was retrieved, tailed, encoded, and summarized. Then researchers analyzed and interpreted the findings of the study following the sequence of the problem posed in chapter 1. We use Facebook Messenger. It's a famous online mobile application that allows users to send and receive messages from their friends and other users. It also has the other features like video call or voice call and many more. The researchers use Facebook Messenger to communicate with their respondents and to follow safety protocol in pandemic. Next is the Google Form. It's an application that is used to create and edit forms, surveys, and quizzes while collaborating with other users in online. Even though there are other online survey apps, Google Form is great choice. The researcher used the Google Form app to create survey questionnaires and collect data that will needed for the study. So here are the statistical treatment data for this study. To analyze and interpret the data, the researcher make use of the following statistical tests. Number one, in this study, percentage and frequency distribution is used to compute the respondent's profile like age, sex, and level. The formula is P is equal P is equals to frequency over n times 100, wherein F is equals to frequency and n is the total number of respondents. Number two, for the academic performance of first-year education students in the first semester, means and standard deviation was used. The mean group of data is this, and then the substitute of the data where is the x is equals to mean, XO is equals to weighted mean, and FD is equals to summation of frequency distributed, and N is equals to sample size, while C is the class interval. For the standard deviation, wherein S is the standard deviation for group data, C is for class interval, N is for the number of respondents, and FD is for the frequency distributed. So for the number three, for the utilization of Google Classroom for the first year students, the weighted mean was used. So wherein the X is summation of the product of weighted mean, N is equals to the number of respondents, X is equals to the effectiveness of Google Classroom. So for the relationship of utilization of Google Classroom to the academic performance, person R was used, wherein R is equals to the person R, and X is equals to variable 1 for the utilization of Google Classroom, while the Y is the variable 2 or the academic performance. So this is the presentation of our group, and this is the study.